Hello, everyone. I hope you're all well wherever you are and lockdown's not treating you too badly. Like we said, I'm going to talk you through maths today. Let me just quickly share you my presentation. Hopefully you can all see that. Chris, that all good?
Yeah, looks good.
All right, cool. Right, let's go through it then. So, like I said, I'm going to talk to you about maths at Ashbourne, the maths A level, and I'll try and give you as much information as I can about it. I'm sure a lot of you already know quite a bit about the maths A level and what it contains, so I'm not going to try and bore you with common knowledge, and I'll just talk a little bit about what we do at Ashbourne and how we're also going to talk a little bit about why you should do a maths A level in general as well. A lot of people kind of do it because either told to or they think they like it. I'll go through it in a bit more detail. And as Chris said, feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. I'm happy to stop and answer whenever you need. So before we get on that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself, just introduce myself. I won't spend too much time on here because this isn't the main part of the presentation, but my name's Sean. I'm the Deputy Head of Sixth Form at Ashbourne. I've worked here for about 5 years now. I came straight from university and I worked at Ashbourne. I've also worked in a state school in Coventry, so I've seen pretty much both ends of the spectrum of education. Working in an independent school in Kensington is very different to a state school in Coventry. I lead the maths department, which is the biggest at Ashbourne. Over half our students study maths, so quite a big department, and luckily we get pretty good results as well. And I also oversee personal tutoring and university applications and careers at Ashbourne as well. So if you do join us, you'll see a lot of me, which is a good thing, I hope. Okay, let's crack on then. That's enough about me. Let's talk about some maths. So what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, I mentioned we're going to talk about why you would study maths in the first place. Some of you already probably know that you want to, and I'll just kind of reaffirm your decision here. But then I'll also talk a little bit about what the structure of the new linear maths A level was like. Last year was the first year we had this new linear maths A level. And it's quite different to what was called the legacy old spec. So I'll go through that in a bit and then talk a little bit about why we're different at Ashbourne and what you can expect studying maths at Ashbourne. And then you've got time at the end to ask some questions. Okay, so why maths? Initially, I was going to talk a little bit about what kind of skills you develop by doing maths. And these should be some of the more well-known ones. You know, if you asked any employer or top employer to list the top 10 skills that they expect in their employees, I'm certain that nearly all of them will list some of these skills right here. They're not, you know, the kind of skills that are going to make you popular at a party, but they are all really, really important in your academics. They're important for university, and they're incredibly important for your employment afterwards. And doing a maths A level really does strengthen these skills. And over the time that you're with us, we'll try and hone in on this more than anything to make sure that you're able to tackle some really difficult questions in the syllabus. And the thing with maths, a lot of our students, in fact, nearly all of our students, if they study maths, they will study a combination of maths and the subjects surrounding it on this slide here. And one of the main influences that maths has on other subjects is it can improve your understanding of these other subjects. So for example, biology A level, 10% of it is maths. And I work very closely with the head of biology, and we share a lot of students. Those that do a maths A level tend to find the maths and biology an absolute breeze, whereas those who don't find it a lot tougher. And it goes without saying, subjects like physics and chemistry, there is a lot of maths involved in it. Computer science is the same. If you study maths A level, it often means that you have an easier ride with some of these other subjects. And if you are doing a maths A level, it's likely you'll be choosing one of these other subjects anyway. The only other one that I'd probably include on there is art. If students are thinking about doing architecture, for example, they would need maths and art. But it's a really, really important subject. It's probably one of the linchpin subjects that you can study, and it has a huge influence on your other A levels as well. So it's really, really important. You study more than just your maths A level by taking it. And if we look a little bit beyond just the A level now, we talk a little bit about maybe university and careers. I would say maths is probably the most attractive A level that you can do. I mean, Chris might disagree with me because he's an English literature kind of guy, and there is this rivalry between maths and languages, but I would argue that maths is very, very strongly linked to some.
We'll see.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
We'll see about that.
Oh, I see.
You'll take us through it.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, if doing English literature, you wouldn't be looking at any of these careers. These are all quite well-established, high-paying careers. But a maths A-level opens the doors to many of them. Some of these are quite obvious to you, I think, already. But we'll go through some less obvious careers as well in a bit that maths leads to or can lead to. You should take a look at this, though, and think about what you want to do later in life. If you want to do any of these sectors, if you want to get involved in any of these sectors, you need a maths A-level, except for maybe teaching, obviously. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about university courses as well, and then we can talk more broadly about the careers aspect. So I've divided now the columns here. So on the left, you've got all the university courses that you have to study maths A-level for. So it's a requirement. And on the right are university courses where it's not a requirement to study maths A-level, but they prefer it. And this kind, when it gets really competitive between the top university courses, prefer usually means require. If you're not doing a maths A-level and you're applying to a top course, you're going to be kind of in the second tier, if that makes sense. But have a look. I mean, look how broad the different subjects you've got there are, and how important just doing maths itself opens up so many doors for you. And if you're unsure about what you want to do later in life, or if you're unsure what you want to study at university, by taking maths, you've already allowed yourself a lot more choice than by not taking it. Okay, reverse the decision here. If you don't take maths A-level, you can write off quite a lot of these courses at university. So it's quite important. I'll just give you a second maybe to look through those again, and then we can move on. No questions so far, Chris?
Not yet, but if anyone does have any questions as we go through, just use the chat and then I'll post them to Sean. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay, we'll keep going then. So, that's a brief summary of why maths really. The most important thing for me is it keeps your options open, and some really, really good options as well. And if you look at the environment in today's world, where are the future trends for employment? Well, obviously technology is a massive one. The use of AI. Right now in this environment, things like Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams have become such a massive thing. Online learning, online meetings, online work is going to become the future. What's going to drive that? Maths, computer science, technology. That's just an example. But you've also seen how technology has influenced banking, engineering, all of these big industries that all reside and start from this maths A-level. The second point there, you enjoy the challenge. Yeah, you will. I think maths can be one of the most frustrating subjects. I think if you don't get something and you bash your head against it constantly, someone's explained it 3 different ways and you still don't understand it, it can be incredibly frustrating. But as soon as you understand something, there isn't any other subject I think is more satisfying when you finally understand something, and it's kind of worth the challenge. And I will stretch you as a teacher, as a leading department, I will push you pretty hard with it. But by the end, I'm sure you'll have come further than you thought you would. And it is enjoyable to finally get a pretty good grade in a really tough A-level. As we mentioned before, you get some very valuable skills, not just for your studies, but also in employment thereafter. And it complements many other subjects. We saw the different subjects that link to maths and are influenced by maths. It's a really, really important subject to take at A-level if you're considering it. Okay. So now a little bit about the A-level itself, the new linear spec. We'll talk a bit about its structure and how it's assessed. So it's split up into 2/3 what's called pure and 1/3 applied. Now the pure, for any of you who are doing GCSE or the equivalent, it's going to be an extension of the topics you learn there. So all your algebra, geometry, trigonometry, graphs, all of that gets extended into what's called pure. And then you start learning about some slightly harder stuff, calculus, differentiation, integration, exponentials. That makes up 2/3 of the syllabus, okay? And you get 4 hours of lessons per week. So it's 2 blocks of 2 hours. The applied is made up of 2 equal portions. One is statistics and one is mechanics. You might have seen some statistics now, you might be doing it in GCSE, so things like mean, median, mode, sampling, variance, that kind of thing. We extend that, and then we add things like probability, different distributions. It's quite stats heavy and looking at data, how data correlates together. And we test a lot of theory. So if a company, for example, said, we've released a new product and it's got, it's now 10% more weight for the same price, you can actually learn how to test it and prove that statistic. And then there's also the mechanics, which is looking at forces, momentum, moments, and looking at different models that we can use to take quite complex models, like say a roller coaster, and try and model it without as many complicated parameters. That is 2 hours a week. So in total, you have 6 hours a week of lessons for maths. And then on top of that, you probably have about 2 to 3 hours of homework. So that's how we teach it at Ashbourne. The A-level is 100% exam based. So you get 3 papers at the end of your second year. 2 are pure papers, and the third one is the applied paper, each one being 2 hours long. At the moment, we do the AS exam in year 12 as well, which is 1 pure paper, which is an hour and a half, and 1 applied paper, which is 1 hour, 15 minutes. And we like doing the AS because it gives you a really good idea of where you're at in year 12. So you do all the work, and then you get an actual qualification at the end, and then you continue on to year 13, where you'll then sit these papers at the end of that year. But it only counts at the end of your second year. So whatever you get in AS, it doesn't count towards the actual A-level. All right. So what do we do differently at Ashbourne? I mean, I could talk for a while about this, but I'll try and be as succinct as possible. There's 3 main areas that I think Ashbourne is different to many schools. And I mean, I went to a school where I was in a class of about 30 to 35 people. And I've worked in a state school where I had to teach classes of 30 to 35 people. So I've got a very good idea of the differences between what we have at Ashbourne. One thing that we're very good at, I think, is we're extremely exam oriented. So every half term you have a mock exam, and you will study for that, and we'll go through a review of your mock performance. Every homework that I give you will be past paper questions. So you get really, really used to the exam language, you get used to the style of questions. So my hope is that when you get to the actual exam hall, the real exam, you come out of it thinking, you know what, that was actually probably easier than Sean's homework. And that's the actual ideal situation, where I stretch you as far as I can during the year using past paper exam questions or my own questions. So you're so used to it that when you take the real exam, it doesn't feel unfamiliar to you. And the mocks and this kind of way of thinking about homework and assignments, it probably transitions across all the subjects at Ashbourne. It's not just maths, but I know we do it quite extensively. You get a lot of support. Well, like I said before, I understand that maths can be incredibly frustrating and it can be very challenging, but we have a lot of support at Ashbourne. For maths in particular, we have a clinic every Friday lunchtime where there's 4 teachers in a room. If you need any help, you can just come in, ask for some help on your homework or something you didn't understand. We have a mentoring system where older students, normally year 13s, will be paired up with a student who needs a bit of help each week with their homework or whatever. And we found that to be a really, really useful system. I don't teach in the afternoons and not on Thursdays and Fridays. So I'm available in my office. If you ever need help, you can just pop in. And I normally help our students quite a lot out of hours, which is great. And there are full-time teachers who can help you outside the classroom as well. So you get lots and lots of support at Ashbourne. And we stretch you. We really do stretch you. And if you want to be stretched, if you like maths, if you're good at maths and you feel like you want to go beyond the A-level, well, there's further maths, which there's a following webinar that you can sit in on and find out more about that. But we do maths competitions, so the UK Maths Challenge. We do that every year, both the individual challenge and the team challenge, which we normally do really, really well in. We went to the national finals last year. There's the engineering program, if you want to get involved in a more specific university-based projects. And anything that you want to stretch yourself within maths, you just come see me and I can create individual projects for you. We can decide research projects together. Anything that you want, we're really flexible at pushing you a bit further. So those are the 3 main differences, I think, at Ashbourne. And the only thing I would add to that is, like I said, I used to work and teach in quite big classes. I used to be a student in big classes. When I've got a class of about 8 to 10 people, it's so easy to teach, and I get so much time with individual students, which I never would have before. And in the best way, and this is a good thing, students can't hide. If you haven't done your homework, I'll know straight away. Whereas when I was at school, if I didn't do my homework, no one really knew, or no one called me up on it. That is a good thing, by the way. But you get a lot of contact time at Ashbourne. You get a lot of individual attention. And like I said, we're really, really willing to push you further than you thought you might have got. And our results hopefully speak for themselves. The maths department last year was about 50% A-star rate. Before that, we were nearly 60, 55% A-star the year before that. And this year, if it wasn't for the circumstances we were in, I think we'd have hit about 60% A-star rate, which I'm pretty pleased with. So I hope that gives you quite a quick, good overview of how we do maths at Ashbourne and why you should consider taking it at A-level. But now I'll open the floor. If anyone's got any questions, you've got me for another 20 minutes. Feel free to ask them.
While we wait, Sean, do you want to talk maybe a little bit about the Year 12 personal tutoring system?
In Year 12, you're assigned a personal tutor. Each student's assigned a personal tutor who is responsible both pastorally and academically to support that student. And you'll meet with them once a week, and they're your go-to person. They're the bridge between your parents and the school, between your teachers and you, between management and you. They are your kind of hub of knowledge as well. So if you have any questions or concerns or whatever, you go to them. And like I said, their main job is to keep you on the straight and narrow. So if you're not doing your homework, if you're in trouble, then you will get pulled up by your personal tutor. But likewise, if you're doing really well, they're there to keep you motivated.
Question from Aiden.
Yeah.
He says, how hard is further maths in comparison to normal maths?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the word further in further maths makes people think it's now impossible. If you tried to do further maths now, Aiden, I'm sure you would cry about it. But if you do the maths A level first, so the way we do it at Ashbourne is you finish the entire maths A level in your first year, so in year 12, and then in your second year, you'll do the further maths A level. Now, if you can get through the maths A level in year 12, you'll be fine to do the further maths A level in year 13. But we do extra support when we have a program to help students finish the maths A level in year 12. You get an extra 2 hours of tuition. I take quite a lead role in making sure everyone can try and get through it. And if you can complete that year, then further maths shouldn't be that big a step up.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Question here from Nirza. She's saying, is it better to take up maths or further maths if the child is taking up physics, chemistry, and computer science?
So you'd have to do maths first. You can't do further maths without maths, really. There's a lot of prerequisite knowledge that's needed from completing the maths A level to then do further maths. So like I said, you would normally do further maths in year 12, finish the A level, and then attempt further maths in year 13. And the good thing about that as well is it's flexible. So if at the end of year 12 you finish the maths A level and you decide you don't want to do further maths, well, you don't have to, and you've completed the maths A level. So it gets out of the way, and then you can focus on other subjects in year 13. But we normally only expect students who are pretty good and driven with maths to do that. Okay, thanks, Nirza. If anyone has any follow-up questions after Sean's answer, just please write that in the chat, and then we can ask any follow-up questions as well. There's another question here, Sean, about the jump between GCSE and A level for maths. Is it a big jump, and what grade should students be expected to get at GCSE to then do maths? Yeah, that's a good question. I'll answer them separately. So firstly, in terms of what grade you should be expected for GCSE, we are quite flexible, but I'd expect you to get at least a 6 in GCSE maths. Ideally a 7, 8 or a 9, but we can work with a 6. What I would say is if you are going to get a 6, or if you think that's about the level you're at, then please get in contact with us, because we have a pack of questions and we've got work that we can give you to work on over the summer to prepare you for the A level and help you bridge that jump. In terms of the jump itself, with all A levels, the jump isn't in content. The jump is in the way you learn, the way you're taught, and the way you've got to work independently. That's the biggest jump. So in terms of the content, you'll actually find in year 12 maths, you might have done a lot of the stuff before, or there won't be that big a jump up at all. But what you will lack is the structure around you, where someone says, okay, you've got to do all of this homework and you've got to give it to me by the next day. If, for example, you didn't understand the homework, it is then your responsibility to do something about it. And that's the biggest difference with GCSE. So don't worry too much about the content. It's more about GCSE to A level. That is a more independent jump.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Sean. Question here from Naveed. If you want to study corporate law, is it good to study maths?
Good question. I mean, I'm always going to answer yes, it's good to study maths, Naveed. But for corporate law, yeah, it is. I think it's never a requirement for law to do maths, but the different qualities that I suggested earlier that maths gives you, it's going to look very favorably to any law firm. So you want to, a lot of the time law firms, they want to see that you're good at writing, so that you're studying some kind of humanities subject like English, history, something where you're good at writing. But if you balance that, because we don't get a lot of students who do both English literature and maths, but if you've got both brains, if you can do both of them, you look really, really good, you stand out.
Okay, great. Thanks, Naveed, for that question. Another question here, Sean, from Samara. They're asking, do you need to do GCSE additional maths to then go on to do A-level maths?
No, you don't need to do additional maths to do A-level maths. Additional maths helps you if you want to do the maths A-level in year 12, the full A-level, and then go on to do further maths. That's when it's really useful. But no, just doing the GCSE maths and getting as good a grade as you can in that is sufficient.
Okay, thanks, Samara, for that question. Question here, Sean, from Anna. Is it better to do maths, both maths and further maths with physics? Or is it okay just to take maths rather than further maths as well? My son is willing to attain a career in aviation, so what would you recommend?
Okay. It depends. It depends on what kind of caliber university you want to study at. If you want to go to a really, really top university, an Imperial, etc., then you will need further maths. You'll need to be getting A stars across the board, and then you'll need further maths for that. But if you're unsure about doing maths in 1 year, then it's fine. You can start it off, and we can see how it goes. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, and we don't do further maths. But it means that you might have to compromise slightly on what level of university you're applying to. You can just go to the tier below it, which is still Russell Group, still very good universities. But only the very top ones would expect you to do further maths.
Okay, hope that answers your question, Anna. Thank you for that. Question from Basira, Sean. Is there anything we should do in the summer holidays to prepare for A-level maths? I think you touched on that briefly, but if you could, yeah.
I'm always going to say yes to that question, mainly because when students do nothing over summer, they don't come back the same level as they are when they took their exams in June. They're not at the same level. Everyone regresses, okay? So the main thing I would say to you is just don't forget all the stuff that you've learned and you put all that effort in over GCSE. Go over your material. Don't let it rot and then you come back really, really rusty and you have to relearn it all. If you can hit the ground running in your A-levels, you're in a really strong position. The hardest thing is when you get behind. And if you feel behind from day one, you're going to struggle a little bit with it. So you don't have to do anything extra. Just make sure you're solid with your GCSE knowledge, that you're very happy with the basics and the core stuff, and then you'll be fine for A-level maths.
Sean, I don't know if you could talk a little bit about, we've got a new thing this year, the super curricular library, talking about sort of doing work over the summer and things like that. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that system that's been implemented this year?
Yeah, so basically it was born because with the year 12s, each year through the personal tutor system that I was alluding to earlier, you get quite a lot of support with your university application. And we start preparing as early as possible. So as early in year 12 as possible. And we start writing the personal statements in year 12 as well. And what I found, or what we found a lot with students, is they lack a lot of material that they can talk about academically. For example, if I was an engineering student, I would write down, I really like maths, I really like physics, I'm studying them at A-level, but every student who's applying for engineering does maths and does physics. So you don't stand out at all. You know, there's 10,000 people applying for this place and you are saying the exact same thing that they are. So what we want to do is facilitate for our students more academic material that they could be doing outside of the classroom. Because often there's such a wide variety of things they could be doing, it's quite easy to get lost with knowing what you want to do. And we created what we called a super curricular library of about 1,000 things students can be doing in their spare time over summer. And it's all sorted by subject as well. So you can see across the various subjects what I could be doing, if it's a book, if it's an online talk, if it's an online work experience. All of those things are available, and teachers have been adding to it routinely, and we're going to keep updating it so that students just log on, look at the supercurricular library, think, oh, that's a great idea, I'll take that and I'll do that, and I can add it to my application.
Great. Okay. Just another question here, Sean. This is from Tiana, asking, is there a lot of content in A-level maths?
I mean, yes. You get the answer to every A-level, is there a lot of content, will be yes. It is a step up from GCSE, but what I think is the bigger difference between A-level maths and other subjects is, so for example, with biology, you'll learn a lot of content in year 1, and then in year 2, you learn a lot of new content. So you've got 2 years worth of terminology, vocabulary, content that you've got to remember. Whereas with maths, what you learn in your first year is like a building block. That's the foundation. And then in year 2, you build on top of that. There isn't a lot of new topics that you learn. You just keep extending what you've learned from year 12. So in terms of content, it's probably got the least content out of any A-level. But within each topic, it can get quite challenging.
Okay, and on that subject, Sean, you explained earlier on about how students will take the full A-level in 1 year if they're looking to do further maths.
Yeah.
So with a look to the next webinar, can you explain just a little bit about doing that compressed course? How is it more hours? Is there a lot more work required to sort of undertake that?
Yeah, I think, like Chris said, in the next webinar, there'll be quite a lot more information, detailed information about it, but I'll try and summarize it. Students who tell us that they are interested in doing further maths will be put into the maths in 1 year program, where they are put into year 2 classes. So I lead those classes, and they're also given 2 hours extra a week to help them with the fundamentals that they need to know to manage with those classes. It is a bit like chucking in the deep end, a little bit, but so far every year that we've done it, students actually really do well in it. And we stretch them quite a lot, but you're given so much extra support that initially it can feel like, wow, this is quite a lot. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of stuff I haven't heard of. But with the extra hours you get of tuition and with my support, students tend to do quite well with it. And like I said before, it's the flexibility that it offers. So at any point during the year, if you're like, this is too much, I don't want to do this, then we can stop and you can just do maths over 2 years, not a problem. If you get to the end of the year and you feel like you've managed, but we don't think that you're quite ready to take the exam, then you don't need to do the exam until the end of year 13. But you can still now do further maths because you've learned all the knowledge in maths A-level to allow you to do further maths in year 13. So it's quite a flexible way of doing it. It stretches you. And if anyone is keen to do further maths, let us know as early as possible and we can help you. This week we're starting with some classes. Every Friday I'm going to be doing a session with those who are interested in doing maths in 1 year. I'm going to go through certain topics that will help you to survive in the year 2 classes, which will give you a bit of a boost and hit the ground running when you start the normal classes.
Another question here, Sean, from Emma. She's asking, as a parent, what can I do to support my child during A-level preparation that would make the most difference?
Really good question. I think the most important trait of successful A-level students is consistency. So I found a lot with students who are coming from GCSE, they're very much used to a system where they could cram towards the end, and they found it paid off. You can't do that at A-level. You've got to just stay consistent, and like I said before, you can't get behind. So as a parent, the main thing that you can do is just make sure that your child is constantly on top of their homework. They're not getting behind. Review every half term. We're doing a mock, and you get a report, and you get the results of that mock. We've got to try and be as consistent as possible. If a student dips, and it happens, it obviously will happen, we've got to try and get them back on track. Because often I think students leave it too little, too late, and with A-levels you just can't. So for a parent, I think it's just about being consistent, making sure that they're doing their homework on time, that they're using all the available support that Ashbourne has. It's not just turning up to class. There's so much extra support that we can offer. Take advantage of it. That's what you're paying for. Make use of that, and then you should succeed at A-level.
Great, thanks, Sean. But for now, Sean, I don't know if you could talk a little bit more about the maths clinics. This is something that we have for many different subjects at Ashbourne. So what is it that actually takes place in the clinic? What does the clinic look like? And how is it used at Ashbourne?
Yeah, it's now become quite a popular thing, like Chris said, across different subjects. The way we run it with maths is they're in the room is me, another maths teacher, a third maths teacher, a year 12 teacher, and a GCSE teacher. So across the board, there's lots of different levels of teacher. And there's kind of two types of student. One is those who just need a bit of help with something that they were doing for maybe for homework or revision or whatever. They don't understand something, they come in, get a bit of help from the teacher, and then they can leave. Or for me, it also allows, if a student is struggling or they've missed the homework, or I feel like they could do with an extra session, I will make them come to the clinic every lunchtime and give them a bit of extra support till they're back on track. So that's the way I deal with it. And I think most clinics are run the same way. It's just another support mechanism. And so some students who initially struggle with the jump from GCSE, they attend every week, and that extra support gets them through the A level.
And in terms of sort of extracurricular activities within maths, can you talk a little bit about the different opportunities that are available there, UKMT Maths Challenge and things like that?
Yeah, so we do the UKMT Challenge both at GCSE and A level. There's two types of challenges. One is the individual challenge, where it's a bit like an exam, but it's very problem solving, those kind of questions. It's all multiple choice. We did it, the results last year, or was it the year before, we had 5 students who got the maximum score, which is incredible. And one student last year actually ended up going through different rounds and ending up in the British Maths Olympiad second round, which put him in the top 100 students in the country, which was incredible. And if you stick around with the Further Maths webinar next, Imran, who leads the team challenge, he did an incredible job with his team of students. They worked every week on some practice problems, and they took on other teams within our district, and they did incredibly well as a group. So that you do a team challenge as well, and that requires 2 year 12s and 2 year 13s. So if you feel like you're up for a challenge, you can try and get into the team, or you can participate as part of the team and then compete with other schools across the country.
So I don't think there's any questions at this point, Sean. So thanks very much, Sean. That was great. And thanks everyone for joining us.